I'm just going to introduce myself a bit for those that don't know me. My name is Florence Onanuga. Um, I'm an experienced business transformation consultant. My skill sets ranges from strategy and roadmap planning to IT governance, project management, agile, change management, capacity development. So on the screen, you can see some of the brands I've worked for over the time of my career. I'm also currently a trainer with PMI Toronto, teaching project management. I love soccer. I enjoy soccer. The club I support is Liverpool. I'm into real estate. I enjoy that space. I love to cook, and I also enjoy book reading. So those are some of my hobbies and interests. And over the course of the training, you get to know more about me. Okay, I can see Kizito say you never walk alone, 7 up. Okay, good. So we have some fans here. Yeah, I'm a Liverpool fan. Okay, so I currently still work with RBC at the moment. I'm in IT risk. I just moved to IT risk recently. Okay, so we'll go. I'm sure this is not new to us in terms of the rules, right? We're going to be on mute, right? I know I normally encourage to share videos, but I'm not even sharing today because I've had a long day. Okay. So if you have questions, you can raise up your hands, and if you want to use the alternative mode to put comments in the chat or questions, you can also do that. Okay, and always feel free to raise up your hand, teaching on, and or put the comments in the chat. I'm going to open up the chat so I can quickly say comments when it's in and answer questions as we go along. Okay. So before we start, right, I want to talk about the fixed mindset and the growth mindset. I know right now a lot of you are learning about Salesforce, and you're not just learning about Salesforce, you're learning a lot of things at the moment, right? I want you to have that mindset that is a growth mindset, that mindset that says nothing can stop you. You can do anything you want to do, right? I don't want you to have that fixed mindset where you just believe that you're good at certain things and you don't like doing what you don't know, right? So be ready to learn, open up, right? And let your mindset, just have that mindset that of growth. Like you want to learn because at the end of the day, how will I put this? The future, right? The future assets. I know in the past they used to tell you that being a jack of all trade, right? You'll not be a master, like you won't be a master in any, right? But right now, in the space where we are, is more of like they wanted to understand every bit, every aspect of technology. Just to have a bit of understanding is very important. You can still be an expert or you can have a specialized skill in one, but you still want to understand all the other areas in technology, maybe the processes that surround how technology is being implemented and things like that. Okay, so it's very important. Okay. Yes, so I'm going to show you our plan, right? But in reality, things can always happen, right? But the goal is that we're going to get to the end. That's just the goal, right? We're going to get to the end, but I'll share the plan with you now. But in reality, things can happen along the way, but we'll get to the end. Okay? And I want everyone to have that mindset. When you have a plan, it doesn't mean that you can achieve it. You can achieve it. A lot can happen along the way, but you're not supposed to give up, right? You continue so you can get to your goal, okay? So I used to have this class mantra, and this was from Denzel, right? There's something that I like to share there, right? That is something that I use, and I also I also share that with my students, right? That because I believe that consistency matters a lot, right? So Denzel said something. He said, without commitment, you will never start, right? And everyone here has showed commitment. You started already, right? That means you want to do this, right? So without commitment, you will never start. More importantly, without consistency, you will never finish. Now you started, right? I'm sure you've been doing this course for like 1 month to 2 months, right? So, but you need to stay consistent, right? So that you can finish at the end of the day, right? And also, another part I want to share is ease is greater threat to progress than hardship, right? So when you are comfortable, right, is a greater threat, right, to progress, right? So you don't want to be in that state of your comfort zone, right? I know everybody likes to be in their comfort zone, but you don't want to be in that state when you are too comfortable and at the end of the day, you can't progress or you can't grow. Okay? Yes, so I'm going to share the plan now and we'll go straight into the class. So we have 2 weeks to go through this because so we're going to do Scrum for 2 weeks. And I think we're going to do project management for 3 weeks. That's what I've been told. So for these 2 weeks that we're going to go into Scrum, today we're going to start with what we call Introduction to Project Management and Full Stack Development. Then tomorrow, in case we don't finish full stack, I'm hoping we'll finish full stack today, but in case we don't finish, we'll continue that tomorrow, and we're going to do quality assurance as well. Then on Wednesday, we're going to do Introduction to Product Management. Thursday, we start with Agile, Scrum, then we do some deep dive into Scrum, like having like a simulation practice together. Okay, so that is how the class is going to run for the next 2 weeks. Okay, so I know some people will say, oh, why are you doing project management if we're just supposed to learn Scrum, right? So sometimes people need to understand that there is a Scrum, it's not just that. People need to understand that Scrum is always part of something, right? So it's just to have an idea of that. I know I'm still going to go into details when we start on Agile, but there is a reason why Scrum started, right? So it's also a process, right? It's just a way projects are being delivered, right? So when we say project management, we're talking about how you can deliver a project, how you can execute something, how you can implement something, right? So for you to implement that stuff, we can use different processes. Scrum is one of the process, right, that we can do that. Okay, so I'm going to be explaining that as we go along. So if you have any questions, you can let me know. Okay, so the first module we're going to go through is project. So what is project? What is program? Portfolio? What is project management? And project lifecycle? So what you want to achieve here is you want to understand the basis of project management and understand the different project lifecycle. Okay. So what is a project, right? A project is a temporary endeavor. So the key word here is the temporary endeavor, right? So it's a temporary endeavor that is undertaken. So how do you know something is a project? A project is something that has a beginning and the end, right? It means that when you're working on a project, it must have a lifetime, right? So a project can be 6 months, a project can be 1 year, a project can be 5 years, but there is always a lifetime when it comes to a project. And anytime you're working on a project, you're going to be creating something unique, right? It can be a product, it can be a service, it can be a result, right? So when you say you're bringing something new to life, for example, maybe you're introducing a new service, well, you're upgrading, you are enhancing, or you are modifying an existing solution, right? So in that scenario, you say you're working on a project, right? And it must be done within a particular period of time. For example, if an organization is using Zoho and they are saying right now that they want to implement Salesforce. They want to move from Zoho to Salesforce. That kind of project is called a migration project because they are migrating from Zoho to Salesforce, right? For example, if an organization is using Windows 7, right? And they're saying that they want to start using Windows 10. They want to do a project where they will implement Windows 10, right? What they are trying, that kind of project is called an upgrade project. They are currently using Windows 7. Now they're changing the version to Windows 10. So that is an upgrade project. So so it can be an upgrade project, it can be a migration project, it can even be something that does not exist at all, a new application that you are putting in place, right? But when you are working on a project, you must be producing something that is unique, right? And something that has a beginning and an end, right? You are trying to fill a gap. You are trying to address a gap within the organization, right? So that is what a project is. So why do projects exist? I know sometimes someone will say, oh, project manager roles are saturated, Scrum Master roles are saturated, right? But the truth is that they will always be available, right? Because projects are created to provide business value and to deliver benefit. So, and for you to create that, for you to create business value, it can come from different perspectives, right? So a project can be initiated to explore an opportunity. Maybe there is a customer request, there is a market demand. Do you guys recently see when OpenAI released ChatGPT? You see what happened to Google? Google decided that they also want to release their own AI as well, right? So what am I saying? They started creating a lot of projects around that artificial intelligence just for them to be able to also release to the market, right? Because there is a market demand for artificial intelligence, right? So there will always the creation of project because they want to deliver benefits, right? They want to stay competitive, right? So why do projects exist? You want to deliver business value. You want to stay competitive. You want to be ahead of your competitor, right? And you know what happened to Nokia phone, right? I'm very sure you guys remember that at a point in time, Nokia phone was the leader in the market, right? But what happened is that Nokia, the users, right, the consumers, they started requesting for something, right? But Nokia decided that they want to continue what they are doing, right? But they were not, but the direction of the market was changing, right? Now, but Nokia continued to follow their strategy and they were not changing. I can bet you right now that you rarely see someone that uses a Nokia phone, right? Most people has pivoted into either Apple, Samsung, or all these phones that use latest technology, right? So what happened to Nokia in that scenario? Nokia did not respond to the market, right? So organizations want to respond to the market, and as they are responding to the market, they will always create a project, right? So that's one thing you want to know, that anytime a project is created, is for it to be able to provide business value and deliver benefit. So there will always be project. Okay? Operations versus project. What is the difference, right? Operations is a continuous effort, right, that is undertaken to achieve a goal. Remember, we said projects is temporary, but operations is continuous, is ongoing, is repetitive. You know, when you call something business as usual, that's an operation, right? So project will always end, but operation is ongoing, right? So you can see the difference, right? When it comes to projects, your results is always new, right? But when it comes to operation, it's the same thing. Same thing you're doing every day in, out, right? So operation does not have anything that ends. So when you're doing operation, as long as the organization exists, as long as the company exists, as long as they continue to function, there will always be something called operation. So in this scenario, you need to understand yourself, right? Right now, you are in Salesforce, right? You want to become a Salesforce business analyst, a Salesforce consultant, you need to now understand, do you want to work on a project or do you want to be in operations, right? Because you can also be working on the Salesforce, we have Salesforce admin, Salesforce support. They help with Salesforce that is already existing in the organization to support them, right? They also help to, to solve problems, daily problems that users will have, right? And we also have Salesforce consultants or business analysts that will continue to work on projects. They will continue to work on something new. So you now need to understand yourself. Where do you fit in? What kind of work do you want to do? Do you want to do be in a place where you're solving people's problem on a daily basis, or do you want to work on a project where you experience something new all the time? Right? So that's what differentiates between project and operation, right? So I'll just give you the summary again. For projects, it is temporary, it is unique, right? And you're creating, and it has an end date, right? It closes after you've attained the objective of the project, right? For operation, it is something that is ongoing, it is repetitive, right? And it sustains the business. It is available to sustain the business. It will continue to happen until the end of that organization. When they say something is end of life, right? When the organization is end of life, then the operation ends, okay? Governance. Oh, before I continue, do you have any questions? Is it clear? Project and operations. Okay.
Yes.
Is that a question? Okay, it's clear. I can see chat. Okay, good. So we'll go on. I want to talk about governance, because you need to, when we talk about projects, you want to understand that there are governance, there are different governance for different project processes, right? So you want to understand the different governance. So when we talk about governance, governance is the overall structure involved in setting policies and procedures for how work will be performed. So before I even go deeper, I will tell you right now, if you're going to be working in technology, there's something we call the IT Steering Committee, right? IT Steering Committee is the highest governing body, right, for technology in every organization, right? They are responsible for government regulatories, like internal standard, like all these policies and all that. That is their role. And their role is to always ensure that work is aligned with the strategic plan of the organization. So when you hear things like IT Steering Committee, they are like board of directors. So if I use a big organization, for example, now let's use RBC, for example, right? In RBC, we have organizations inside organizations. So what do I mean by that? We have wealth management. Wealth management is seen like an organization. We have personal and commercial banking. We have even technology itself, technology and operations. We have wealth management, commercial banking. So all these areas, right? All these areas, they are lead. Yeah. The CEO, I'm using CEO. They might not be called CEO, right? They might be called EVP or SVP. So I'm using CEO, for example. The CEO of each of those areas, right? Yes, we have insurance. So the CEO of each of those areas will come together, and the head of technology as well, right? They will form what we call the board, right? So they call them the IT Steering Committee. So what is their role? Every time the organization will come up and say, oh, this is what we want to achieve in the next 5 years. This is our strategic roadmap. This is what we want to achieve in the next 5 years, right? Technology will now look at it. Oh, okay, this is what you want to achieve in the next 5 years. Technology, how can we help you achieve this goal? Technology says, okay, what technology can we use to help you achieve these goals, right? Now, technology would look at it and say, they are saying that they want to be more green. Okay, maybe we need to start going cloud. I'm just giving an example. Now, technology will also ensure that they have discussions with every business area. All those commercial banking, insurance, they will have discussion with them to understand that insurance, how do you want to achieve the strategic goal that the organization has put in place? Oh, this is what you want to do. HR, how do you want to achieve this goal? So for example, if HR say we want to implement Workday, oh, you want to implement Workday. So based on because we want to implement Workday, or HR might say we want to implement a policy where you can work anywhere, any day, at any time. Oh, for you to be able to work anywhere, any day, at any time, that means you need to have a service where everyone can work at different places. Oh, technology, we need to have a cloud service where everyone can log in at any point in time, anywhere. Now, HR is the one implementing the policy, but what technology is doing is they are supporting that implementation of the policy by providing the technology for that to run, right? So when technology lists all these activities they want to do, where they prioritize this IT steering committee are the one that will approve it, right? So that is why they are the governing body. They understand where the organization is going, and they understand what technology needs to do to be able to achieve those, to help the organization achieve those things, right? So that is why they are the one that approves it, to say, okay, let's go ahead, because all of them needs to be involved, right? Now, in project, there's something we call the project steering committee. So imagine what I just explained now in IT steering committee. Now imagine it on the project steering committee, right? So on the project steering committee, what happens? The people, if there's an issue, or if you need an approval, or you need a budget change, right, is the project steering committee that will approve it. So you present your case, right? You present your issues and all the impact and all that, and they will approve it. So that is the role that's what we call governance on a project. Now, when it comes to Agile, Scrum, it is a different scenario, right? It is a different scenario of how that operates, right? So in projects where you have the project steering committee and the change control board that helps you with changes, in Agile, they expect that the business is working with you, right? The business and technologies, they are not separated. So Agile, Scrum, they are saying that let's work together, right? So we're going to go through that. Let's work together, right? So in that scenario, everyone is working together, right? It's a different ball game. So this is what governance is all about. So I just wanted you to have an idea that in every organization in technology, there will be governance, and we have different governance that can exist. I just told you about two, which is the IT steering committee and the project steering committee. You'll see things like the investment review board. Those are the people that look at the money, the economics of the project, the cost benefit analysis, right? You see a lot of people that are business analysts in that kind of space, right? That helps to look at the economics of what they are trying to do to be able to recommend that they should go ahead. So portfolio is the next one. So what is it? Before I talk about portfolio, let's talk about program. We've talked about projects. We know projects have beginning and an end. Now, program, what is a program? A program is a group of related projects managed in a coordinated way. So what does that mean? What that means is that a program has different projects in it. So when you look at a program, there's project 1, project 2, project 3, project 4, but they are managed together. Those projects are related. So they manage them in a coordinated way so that they can be beneficial, right? So for example, let me give you an example. Let's say we want to do a program. Our program name is called Digital Transformation. That's our program name, right? But there are different projects to be able to achieve that digital transformation. For example, we want to do Windows 10 upgrade. We want to do Office 365 implementation. We want to do workflow automations. We want to do mobile app development, right? So these are different projects under that program that can help us achieve digital transformation. We want to do digital meeting rooms. You know those digital meeting rooms that you plug your system, it shows so you're having an hybrid meeting. Some people are at home, some people are in the meeting room. They call them digital meeting rooms, right? And it's paperless. You don't carry paper. Everyone connects your laptop easily and you can talk, right? So those things, those different projects, when managed together, they can manage them in a coordinated way, right? Because they are a group of related projects. So in that scenario, we call them a program, right? So why do we have a program? So why do we manage those projects in a coordinated way? We manage them because they are going to save us some cost, right? So you can have a coordinated control, support, and guidance, right, on that program, right? So digital transformation is also, they also say economic of scale, right? I don't know if we have any business person here, right? Economic of scale. How can I explain that now? Hold on. Okay, you know data warehouses, right? Right? I don't know if you guys know about data warehouse, right? If you guys are in technology, I was supposed to ask you guys to understand how good you are in technology, but I'll take a break after and ask you guys. Okay, so if you know, data warehouse is so in technology, the data center, exactly. So in technology, we have what we call data centers, right? So every organization has a data center, right? So for example, RBC has a data center, CIBC has a data center, Bell has a data center, Rogers has a data center, right? Now, for every data center, you need to have power. You need to have servers, you need to have routers, switches, right? You need to have security, right? Now, put that in your mind, right? Everyone has a data center. And guess what? As your information is growing, as your company is growing, you need to make your data center bigger. You get what I'm saying? Now we have organizations like AWS, Microsoft, right? Oracle, all those people, they are telling you that instead of you making your data center bigger all the time, we can take that load off you, right? We'll provide you that service, right? So we are going to provide you a platform where you have access to all these routers, switches, and all that. Instead of you keep buying and growing your data center, we will provide you access to that. So they provide them what we call cloud services, right? So what is AWS? What is Microsoft? Oracle? What are they doing, right? What they do is, I don't know if you guys remember 1004, right? If you guys remember 1004, you know, in 1004, you have different flats, right? Different flats that makes up 1004. So now imagine that 1004 is AWS data center, something like that, right? So that different rooms is different data centers, right? So what they will do is maybe room 1 is data center for RBC, room 2 data center for Rogers. Sometimes room 3 can be data center for Bell and RBC. I'm just giving you an example. So what are they trying to do? They are saying that instead of you to keep spending money of power, security, exactly, multi-tenant, instead of you to keep spending money, I'm trying to put it in a layman's language, right? So instead of you to keep spending money on power, security, RBC, Bell continues buying more routers, switches, just come to us. Just subscribe and we'll provide you that service, right? So what AWS, Microsoft, what they're doing something we call economics of scale, right? Because the power they will need, the power they will use the same power to power the whole data center, right? So they're telling you that let's do economic of scale. Let's use the same security, the same power to power everything, and you just subscribe to it. Instead of you keep having data centers, building it, expanding it like that. So that is the way you manage a program. So you are doing economic of scale because you can be using maybe the same resources. You can be using maybe the same data, the same information, right? So that is what they mean when they try to do a program, because they know that if you combine that project together, you're going to get benefits for combining it together. So that is what a program is. Now, a portfolio is something that contains program. You know what a program is already, right? Individual projects. So what they mean by individual projects, those projects are not part of a program. They are on their own. They are running on their own. Individual projects, programs, and operations. You already know what operations are, and you know what programs are, and you know what projects are. So when they group all this together to achieve a strategic business objective, then they called it a portfolio. Then you now see someone they call SVP Innovation Services is managing a portfolio. So that SVP Innovation Services, so an example, what I'm saying is Senior Vice President Innovation Services is managing a portfolio. That means that guy is managing a portfolio that consists of people doing operational work, people doing program, people doing operational work, people doing program, that in a program, and people working on a project. So that guy is managing project, individual project, managing a program, group of related projects, and normal operational work. So in that scenario, we call it a portfolio. So I believe you should be able to differentiate between a program now, a portfolio, and a project. Okay? Any questions before I move on?
Sorry, please. The program is group of related projects. So for example, maybe say in the city I am in, they were doing like trains, right? So that's a project. And so all the related projects involved with that main project. So maybe is like securing the rails first before getting the train, all that is considered a program, right? But then the portfolio includes that program and other individual projects.
Yes. So I'm trying to understand. You talk about a project, right? Securing the train. How is that? You said that is a program. Are there other projects under it?
Well, I'm trying to bring it home. So I'm saying that was a project, like because like there was no train in the city. And so the government is trying to build a railway station, basically.
Okay.
So I'm saying, would that be an example of if you have different projects related to that, that would be a program?
Yes, that would be a program, exactly. Then the portfolio will now be that program, individual project, and operational work. So someone is telling me to explain portfolio again. So you understand program, right? Related project together. Then you understand projects, right? Now portfolio includes programs, projects, individual projects, and operations, right? They will group those together because they are meeting a strategic objective, right? So a portfolio is just, they are grouping it together because they want to get like a return on investment on it. They want to get a strategic benefit from it, or they want to make sure it aligns with the corporate strategy, right? But that operation, let me give you an example. I'm trying to, okay, so let's say, for example, we're doing a digital transformation project, right? We're doing a digital transformation project. So let's say a program. So let's say that is a program. So I'm trying to see another individual project that is just a standalone project. So maybe we are also now doing a Bill 98 project. Bill 98 is, for example, like government released a bill that every like I think all major information within the organization that is English must also be it must also be in French. So most organizations are trying to build translations into their translation application where it can translate English into French, right? So let's say we have that as well, right? We have that project. Then we have normal operations where people are managing applications. For example, I'm just giving an example, when they are supporting an application. So that operational work where they support applications like, for example, Zoho, Workday, Salesforce, they are supporting those applications, right? Those ones have already been implemented. So let's say operations. Then that Build 96, where we are trying to build a translation project, a translation application to change English to French. Then we have a program, digital transformation. So now that program, that project, and those operational work, we are now, everything is now managed under one portfolio, right? To say that the portfolio is also, let's say, for example, the portfolio is managed under something like enhancing business business transformation, or partnering with the business to achieve, something, right? So that portfolio is, they want to use it, they want to make sure it's aligned to the strategic objective, but there are different things that makes up that portfolio. It can be a program, it can be project, and it can be operations. I hope that makes sense to you. So portfolio is more at is high level, right? So most time when you get into organization and you're working on a project, right, you're just a tiny bit part of it. So most people don't even care, but some people care. They want to know how they fit into the large picture, into the big picture. So that is why I'm explaining this to you. So when you get into an organization and you're working on a Salesforce project, you want to also understand how does that align with this strategy, under what portfolio am I actually, working on, something like that. Okay. Now, what is project management? So project management is a science and art that follows a systemic process, right? I'm not going to dwell on this too much. I'm just trying to explain this so that we can, it's like a foundation bedrock into Scrum, right? So it's a science and art that follows a systemic process. So what does this mean? So when you talk about project management, it just means that you are applying knowledge, skills, and tools and techniques to a project so that that project can meet expectations. So when they say it's a science and the art, let me explain the two. So project management, the science aspect is where you are using things like techniques, right? Someone is talking. So when you're using things like budgeting, time management, estimation, those are techniques, they are tools, right? When we get into project management, we'll dwell a bit more on that, right? Those are tools, right? Where you use budgeting, you are doing work breakdown structure and all those things. Those are techniques, they are the science of project management, right? The art of project management is more like your influences skills, how to organize things, right? Your interpersonal skills, right? So they're saying that application of those the techniques and the art aspect, right? Ability for you to apply those things for the project to meet expectation is what we call project management. Okay. Now, project life cycle, right? So every organization has a methodology for managing projects, right? Now, it can either be plan-driven or change-driven, right? Now, what does it mean to be plan-driven? So a plan-driven approach to managing projects is called the predictive life cycle, right? So in this scenario, when you hear things like waterfall approach, right? This is the plan-driven approach, is a predictive life cycle, right, of managing projects, right? So in this scenario, the project manager will logically break down the work, right, in terms of in phases, right? And I'm going to show you an example now, right? Now, the change-driven approach is what we call the iterative approach, the incremental approach, right? Or the adaptive, which we now call agile approach, okay? So now the way you say that for the plan-driven is just remember traditional. Remember something we call waterfall. It's mostly used in construction projects, right? Other organizations still use traditional waterfall, right? So depending on the kind of projects you're managing, right? Now we have the change-driven approach, which is the iterative, incremental, or adaptive. So what is the difference when you say something is incremental? So the incremental approach is, for example, let's say you want to build a website, right? You know, for example, as you're building the website, you have the home page, you have the service page, you have the contacts page. So if you build your own page and you finalize your own page, you said, okay, you and the business look at it, everything is okay, you're good with it. Then you now start building your service page, right? In that scenario, what you're doing is called incremental approach. So you're building that your website in an incremental format. So you build home page, is done, everybody has agreed, then you now move to the next one, you build your service page, right? That's incremental. Then iterative. Iterative is, I want to build a website, I have my home page, my service page, my contact page. What I will do is I will first build an abstract, right? I'll build an abstract. I'll create like a prototype of the entire website, like a skeleton, like, oh, this is what it might look like, right? So you have an idea of what the contact page will look like. You have an idea of what the home page will look like, an idea of the service page. Then you now start making it better. You start adding more information to home page, to contact page. At the same time, you do one iteration, you add more. Another iteration, you add more. So that's the difference between iteration and incremental. Now, some organizations will combine the two. They will do iterative and incremental at the same time, right? So depending on the organization you are working for. Now, the last one is the one we call the adaptive life cycle. So in this scenario, they will tell you that most time what PMBOK will tell you that it has a fixed schedule and a fixed cost, but the scope is broadly defined, right? Which you will see in Agile, right? So they call it like a progressive elaboration, right? They will tell you that let's take some parts, take some requirements, document it, prioritize that requirement, and start working on the project, right? As you are working on the project, showcase it to the business. Are they okay with it? If they are not okay with it, make it better. Add more and continue working on it again. Refine more work and work on it again. Refine more work. So instead of you to gather requirements from the beginning to the end before you even start implementing, they are telling you that no, let's take it small, bit by bit. Be adaptive, be agile in nature. Right? So be adaptive, be agile in nature. That is the change-driven approach, right? So the change-driven can either be iterative, it can be incremental, or it can be adaptive, right? So plan-driven is the waterfall, the traditional method. Now, in some organization, they will combine the two, and they call it hybrid approach. So in that scenario, they combine the predictive and the adaptive development life cycle. So do we understand the difference between the plan-driven approach and the change-driven approach of the project lifecycle? Okay, great. So I'll paint two scenarios, right? Now, we have company A, they want to launch a product, and we have company B as well, they want to launch a product. Now, company A is saying that, okay, we want to launch this product. What do our user want? Do you think they need the product? Then they started creating, they started, okay, let's do this. They started following the traditional route of delivering the product. So they will say, what are the needs? they will start asking the stakeholders. They understand what the function is. They start gathering requirements. When they finalize all the requirement gathering, they will take it for approval. When they get approval, they will now do the design. So they will go through the design. Everything is good. They will get approval for that phase again. After the design is good, then they will now start development work, right? After they finish doing development, they develop everything that the user is requesting for, then they will now say, okay, it's time to test. They will now test, then they will now validate the product, then they will now launch, right? All this, let's say it took them about 8 months, right, to do that. 8 months to go through that process. Company B is saying that, okay, what do our users, what do they want? Okay, this is what they want. Can we prioritize this? What do they really need? What should we start with first, right? Company B is saying, okay, let's take that one that we should start with first. Let's start developing it. They've gathered the requirement. They are now doing the design, right? They are developing that. As they are developing, they are gathering new requirements in readiness for another one, right? So company B is developing, they are testing. Before you know it, they are delivering. So it took them, let's say, about 4 months to get that product out. But company B did not finish the whole product. They delivered something. So what they deliver, we call that in MVP, minimal viable product, right? So the minimal viable product is like the little thing that can that you can release, right? That the users can start using, right? The minimal viable product. So what company B did that, let's release something so that the user can start using it and we can start making it better. We can start getting feedback, right? Now, company A will now start thinking, oh, company B already released our product. Oh, company B, somebody leaked our trade secret to company B. It might not even be so. It might just be like company A and company B, they have the same idea, right? Just like the open AI stuff, right? Google, Microsoft, they all have that ideas as well, right? But open AI was quicker in releasing that platform, right? And I believe that in the first week, OpenAI already got about 1 million subscribers. And before you know it, Microsoft was like, hey, Google was like, hey, they are now rushing to also deliver their own, right? So what am I saying? Agile approach is more like you're saying that let's start. Instead of you to keep waiting, right? Let's put something out there and we can start getting feedback, right? And if we're going to fail, let's also fail fast, right? So let's get that feedback and we can improve, okay? So this is what company A did. Company A went through all this process: demand phase, initiation phase, concept, requirement, design. So they went through this phase, right, to get things done, right? So they went through the traditional project management approach, which we also know as the waterfall approach. Some organizations still uses this. So you need to be able to understand that it's not everyone that is using the agile approach. Even some organizations will tell you that, oh, do you understand the agile approach? Because some of them are trying to move away from the traditional approach to the agile approach, but some still use it for some of their implementation. And some organizations will combine the two, right? So, but what we are saying is that just be agile in the things you're doing. So instead of you using 8 months to do this, can we do them in iterations? Can we do them in different iterations so that we can deliver something to the customer? Because this approach also has a lot of issues. By the time your customer is waiting for 8 months, by the time you deliver, they are always telling you that, oh, did we actually ask for that? Did we request for that? Oh, I can't even remember we requested for that. Or sometimes by the time you deliver the product, the customer has already moved on, right? They've moved on. They've even forgotten what they requested. They can't even remember much, right? Because the market is constantly changing, right? So, and this is why Agile came on board, right? To correct those, the way software is being developed. And now a lot of organizations are also emulating that as well. So this is what this company B did. So company B did something by, instead of them doing the waterfall, define, design, develop, test, deploy at once, they broke down the requirements, They took some parts, they deliver it, they call it sprint outcome. They delivered another approach, another one, then another one in bits and pieces. So they are delivering it faster to their customer, which is one of the agile principles that we are going to go through, right? They deliver faster. And most people, like most of us here are doing Salesforce, right? So most of the time, most organizations you might be working with will be using the agile methodology, okay? So that's the difference between the company. Now, it can also be in such a way that is an hybrid way, right? Which most organizations will still call agile. They will do all the project initiation, they will do everything, the release planning, get ready, right? Because this is what most organizations do when they say they're doing the agile process, right? They will do all the normal planning, right? Then they will start doing the development in iterations, right? Before they now release to production, right? This, we are going to go through it using a simulation, right? Explain this using a simulation. So they will go through that. Now, some organization, what they will do is that they want to try to be more agile in nature. So they want to follow the agile way of working, right? So they are saying that they don't want to do, they will do a lot of planning at the beginning. Then after that planning, everything they are doing will now be in iteration. Okay, so this is what they're doing now. It's not the waterfall approach. You will not see much of that in software development. But the truth is that a lot of planning at the beginning is where you have a lot of planning at the beginning. You might have a project manager that will have done all those planning, vendor management, and all that. And when it's time to implement, you now have a Scrum Master that is managing that implementation entirely. In some organization, you have it in like a product way, right? So you want to implement Salesforce, they will see Salesforce as a product. So you have someone like a product manager and also a Scrum Master. Now, the product manager itself can be a Salesforce consultant. The product manager can be a business analyst specialist, right? Salesforce business analyst specialist. So they might call you a product owner, because what does it even mean? It just means that you are the one in charge of the product, that understand the product that is about to be implemented. Why the Scrum Master will now be the one managing the process I'm going to teach you, to actually make sure you implement that project, okay, or that product. Any questions? Do we have any question? Do you understand? Okay, the same will understand. Okay, good. So that's what I wanted to teach you in introduction to project management, because we are still going to do project management, right? So I just wanted to be able to tell you what the project is and what are the different project life cycles, where we have the plan-driven and the change-driven, right? So now the change-driven is where Agile falls into. So from there, we're now going to start learning about Agile, right? So, but before I start teaching you Agile, I want to cover some things, because those things are what you need to have an idea about, right? Because even if you're working in a Scrum, within a Scrum team, or you're using the waterfall approach, you need to have an understanding of this. Some of you might already have this understanding. So if you have this understanding already, let me know. You can also add to that, right? If you don't have the understanding, you listen to what I'm going to say and you can ask questions. Okay, so the next thing we're going to do is what we call the full stack development. So, but before we start full stack development, I want to do a bit of Kahoot on project management. It's just about 4 questions, just to test your understanding before we move into full stack development. Okay. Wahab, you're saying, can we get the slide? There's nothing in the slide. Okay. So I'm going to share my screen now, and we're going to do a bit of Kahoot. It's just 4 questions, so you should be fine. It's just based on what we've learned just now, okay? Okay, so you're going to try and you go to, I don't know if you guys have used Kahoot before, but let me explain how it works. So you're going to go to your phone and type kahoot.it on your phone, right? It's going to have, it's going to request for a name. I can see Ose is in already, right? And Dami. So it's going to request for a name and the game pin. So you can see the pin at the top, 2945318. So you come in, right? With your name and the pin. So I can see people coming in now. Good, good. I can see Didi, Bad, Bola, Rookie, Aisha, Keys, PB, Bad, Delson. Okay, a lot now. So I'll give us 1 more minute. Okay, we'll start at 8:58. LUP, is that your name? Is LUP your name? Okay. We're going to start in some seconds. So this game is all about fastest fingers and you getting the answer. So you have to get the answer and you have to be fast. So that's how the game works. So when I start now, you're going to see this question on the screen, right? But you're going to pick your answer on your phone. And the answer you're going to pick is based on the colors, right? So you look at the colors and pick the answer. Okay, so we're going to start now. So a project started to create the following except one. So you see the options on the screen, then you pick the answer on your phone. Good job. So 29 people got this, right? So the question says a project is started to create the following except, right? So when you create a project, you want to produce a unique product. You want to produce results, service, right? Not ongoing work. Remember, ongoing work is operations. Okay? Next questions. Let's see the leadership board. We have Slim, Abby, G, DD, Ted. A lot of people got it 29, but these were the fastest fingers. Well done, guys. Okay, we go to the next question. The following are characteristics of operations except good. So the following are characteristics of operations except unique. When it comes to operation, there's nothing unique about operations, right? It's an ongoing, it's a repetitive work, and it is used to sustain the business, right? It's project that produces something that is unique. Okay, I hope this helps take the knowledge, right? We still have, okay, the Bad, Slim, Bola, and Abology. So a lot of people came up. So the other guys that were there, so we have Bookie. Bookie also climbed up a lot, like 12 places up. That's superb. Fastest fingers, right? Program is a group of related projects managed in a coordinated way, true or false? Wow, good. So 41 people got this, only 3 people missed this. So yes, the answer is true, not false. Okay, good job, guys. Okay, everyone remained on the board, I guess. Everyone was fast, and keys moved up 6 places. Okay, last question. Which of the following is not a type of project life cycle? Which one is not a type? Good job. Good job. 41 people got this. The 2 people that missed this, I don't know, but plan-driven, chain-driven, and hybrid are types of project lifecycle. Make or buy is a decision on that when you're like doing business analysis, when you're doing cost benefit analysis, you're making decision to either make or buy. Okay. For example, when you want to build an application, you're saying, do we want to buy off the shelf or do you want to build in-house application, something like that? Okay, so good job, everyone. Let's see the board. And for the podium, in third place, we have Slim. Well done. Second place, we have Bad. And the first position, we have Didi. Well done, well done, well done. And runner-up, we have Bola and Ted. Well done, guys. Well done. Okay. So what we're going to do now is we're going to take 5-minute break. After the break, we'll come back and we'll start full stack development. So by 9:07, we'll start full stack development. Okay. So are we back? 5 minutes is over. It's so fast.
Yes, we are.
Okay. Just to stretch our legs, you know. Okay, let's continue. Before this, I need to do something. Okay. I'm gonna ask some questions. I just want to be sure of have an idea of the class. Okay, I'm gonna share a link. 1 second. Okay, I'm gonna share a link and we're gonna do a poll, right? You guys can use that link and let me know if you can see anything. I'm gonna share my screen now. I think it's gonna ask you for this pin.
It's asking that we log in with an it's asking to log in to the account, like you have to have an account.
Oh, no, don't log in into the account. Let me try this. Is that working? Try it out. What can you see?
Yeah, so this is asking for a code.
Okay, so the first question, I think you should be able to do the poll now. The first question is knowledge of technology.
Yes.
Okay, so you guys are gonna use that link to get on the poll? Like, are you 10%? Are you 50%? Are you above average? You can see my screen, right?
Yeah. Yes.
Okay. And you can see the polls.
Yes, I can
Okay.
see the code.
Are you guys polling? Are people doing the polls? I'm waiting for more people to do the poll. You should be fast. You guys should be agile. Let me know if you're having issues. Because if I use the poll, I have issues. Loretta, you're having issues? You can't see the poll? Did you use the link?
Loretta, you can speak. I have unmuted.
Okay, yes, I use the link. It's saying I should create the organization. And once I do that, it's still saying you don't have access. I don't know what that means. You don't have access to an account. Create organization.
Use the second link. The second link.
Both of them are saying the same thing. So I don't know.
Oh.
Yeah.
I don't know why that is.
The best bet is just scan the barcode and it just takes you here.
Okay.
Okay. Try that. Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. I think
I can now join.
okay, good.
Thank you.
Yeah. But based on what we are saying on the screen, a lot of people are at least technology savvy. We're having about 58%. So I think that is good. And we have about 27% that are above 70. So the next stuff we're going to talk about now is going to be like we're going to do it together. Okay? So I'm stopping that. I'm going to play the next poll. Knowledge of Agile. Do you have any knowledge of Agile?
Mm-hmm.
Wow. Okay. This one, I can see 10%. Okay. So okay. So good. So I know where to dwell in my efforts a lot. Okay. Okay. Thank you. Okay, so I just wanted to understand where the class is. So the class understand technology, but Agile, we have 50, almost like 50 people that are less than, 10%. Okay, good. Slido is just, to do polls, and I think that's what most organizations use. Okay. If you were having issues with it, just learn it, especially if you're going to be working as a business analyst or scrum master or consultant, you need to know how to use that properly because you're going to be using it a lot. Okay. So can you see my screen?
Sorry, I raised up my hand the last time, but
you raised up your hand. So sorry, go ahead. What's your question?
Yeah, from the company A and company B that you used to give an example, I wanted to understand. You said company A went ahead to build their product based on some information they have about their customers, right? And that takes longer time. Then company B did minimum viable product, right? How did they start that production? Did they start it? I just want to understand, how did they start? Did they start it from the front or from the back?
What do you mean by from the front or the back?
Oh, okay. Okay, like did they go and try to do a market research to determine what customer wants to get it done, or they just said, okay, let us build a minimum viable product, which is basically essentially the same thing company A did. They just did it in a very smaller scale.
Exactly. So that's it. That's what you just said. So they also did all those initial requirement gathering and all that. But what they did is they didn't try to implement all the requirement at once, which would take more time in development, in testing. You see a lot of bugs, you go back, you fix, like it takes time, right? Company A tried to implement everything at once. Company B was like, okay, let's do a bit, minimal viable product. What is enough to start our user going, right?
So which methodology is company A?
Is
it waterfall or Scrum?
Waterfall.
It's waterfall.
Yes.
So Scrum is not even about starting from the front, which is from the customer.
No, you start from
building back.
You start from the customer. You're starting from the customer, right? You're getting all the information, but you're not building everything the customer is asking for at once.
Okay.
So by the time we go into Scrum, you'll see it. So you are not building everything at once. So the customer has requested for all this, but you're saying that let's take small, let's build on it. So we want to build this bottle. We want to build a bottle. You know, the cover of the bottle is a requirement. Okay, let's start with building the cover of the bottle, right? They will do that, they will deliver that, then they will go to the next one and like that. But waterfall will say, let's build everything, cover, bottle, everything before we now deliver. Okay?
Okay. I would also like to, because you see a lot of JDs in everywhere, and they keep on shouting agile. Most companies keep on saying agile. But by the time you go into it, and by the time you have interviews, or you see my fellow people saying they don't even practice agile. What's the issue with this pure conversion to agile, especially Scrum, that has to do with because from what you explained, you said when they get after building it, when they get feedback, they keep on iterating it. Is it that it is very expensive for companies? That's why they try to maintain a hybrid kind of methodology rather than strictly Scrum.
No. So not like it's expensive in that scenario. It can be expensive. It's not, that's not even the major point. The major problem is the companies are structured in different ways, right? So for example, in my organization, we try to do a lot of agile, like the way we do most of our work in my team, right? But the truth is that there are regulations, there are rules that we need to follow, there are compliance that we need to adhere to, right? So because of that, we still have a lot of waterfall style, right? So we do mostly like, there are some projects we have to do hybrid, right? Because of the situation, the scenario of that organization, right? So they still have to do with compliance, they still have to get approvals, so many things before they can go to production. It has to be at a certain time, right? They can't go to production when things are live. They have to go at night, different scenarios, right? So depending on the organization and agile, agile is when we start going deep into agile, you will see that it's not it's a situation where you have a lot of deadline, where things you need to get things out, right? People just use it as a way to structure work, a process of implementing so that it can be transparent and so that your customer are following along, right? So your customer can see what you've done, they can accept it, they can, they are moving along with you. It's not like you just go as technology and build, right? And then you come back and deliver to your customer. And you see a lot of benefits in it because at the end of the day, what some organizations do, they will just pick some part of agile and they will implement it. They don't want everything in totality, right? They just want to pick some part of it and they will implement it. And that's why they call it the hybrid approach, right? So, but you see in every organization, you see an element of agile, right? Because everyone wants to stay competitive. Everyone wants to follow that principle of agile because it's actually good, right? Having business and technology work together, right, to achieve a goal. So it has really changed the face of software implementation, right? And right now, it's not only being used in software, it has also expanded into different areas. HR, marketing, they are all using agile approach to implement and to also deliver their work. So at the end of the day, most organizations do hybrid, right? You may get there, they want you to know everything about agile, but when you get into the organization, you see that they are combining most of the methodologies. And that is why I just didn't start straight into agile. And that's why I'm giving you a bit of background into project, right, before, going deep into agile. Okay.
So sorry, one last time. I don't want to take much of your time. The naming kind of confuses me sometimes. It looks like sometimes I even make the mistakes of using the word agile in place of Scrum, or I don't know. I know that, and correct me if I'm wrong, agile is supposed to be like the umbrella for waterfall and Scrum, right?
No. That's what it is, yeah. So agile is for agile. Waterfall is different from agile, okay? Agile is an umbrella, right? For Scrum is a method, a framework under agile. We have Kanban, we have other ones as well. I'm going to do that when we get into agile. I'm going to explain everything to you, okay? So when we get to agile, when we get here, I'm going to explain that, okay? So agile is an umbrella, but not for waterfall. It's for all the framework that follows that principle. There are principles, there are values of agile. So every framework that follows that principle and values will be under that agile umbrella. Okay, we'll do that. Okay. So let's go into full stack development. So why am I talking about full stack development? Most of you are going to be working in a Scrum team when you get your roles as Salesforce consultant, Salesforce business analyst, Salesforce product owner. You're going to be working in a Scrum team. And now there are a lot of areas that make up the Scrum team. You're going to have in a Scrum team, they are called cross-functional, right? But you're going to have people that do development. We have the front-end developers, back-end developers, and this you have people that will do quality assurance. You have people that will be, business analysts, things like that, right, within the organization. So just for you to have an understanding of what they do, right? And I know a lot of people are understanding of technology. So if you have examples, you can also share, or if you have anything to add, you can also add, okay? So we're going to talk about full stack development and IT roles. So understand what the full stack end-to-end development entails, understand the different software development and management roles. So this is what we call a full stack developer and full stack designer. So when you say someone is a full stack designer, what that person means is that the person can do UX, UI, and interaction design, right? So UX is user experience, right? UI is user interface. So when you say someone is a full stack designer, they can do all this. So what is UX, UI? So let me just show you what UX, UI is. So, you know when, okay, let's use Salesforce as an example. Have you guys done anything on App Builder? Anybody has Salesforce App Builder here? Okay, let me just explain it. Okay, so okay, good, Mohammed. So Mohammed, do you want to talk about the App Builder? How it works? Can you say something?
Okay, thank you. App Builder is is a study of how you can actually navigate yourself in the Salesforce platform declaratively. How you can use all the features of the built-in, the inbuilt from the box. Right from the box. Salesforce features declaratively to achieve results instead of actually developing with coding, So yes, that's what App Builder is.
So thank you so much, Mohammed. I like the last part you added, without coding, right? So UX UI designer, this is what they do, right? They're going to use different tools to come up with designs, right? So when they gather requirements from the business, they will come up with designs like this, right? For the user. You can see this chair is the same, but the UI is actually that which one is more accurate. Should it be a drop down for you to pick the color, or should all the colors be displayed at once so that you can pick the color you actually want, right? So they are looking at it and saying that, oh, what will the business want? What does the user want? Which one is more user friendly? That's what they are doing, right? So the UX UI designer, so when you now say someone is a full stack designer, so when you're working in an organization, I'm a full stack designer, the person can do user experience and user interface. So user experience is just gathering research, doing wireframes, doing prototypes. Then user interface is, when you click on it, it's able to take you to the next level. Right now you're just seeing it in pictures, right? So, but if you click on that, on this, what do they call it? On this arrow, right, it's going to show you all the colors that are available for you to pick on it. And they do this without coding, right? So tools that they use to do that is called Figma, Balsamic, Pencil. We have a lot, drop down. Thank you, Tony. We have a lot of tools that can be used for that, right? So the most common tools that are used is Balsamic and Figma. That's what most organizations use. So they use that to put that beautiful picture in place. When you see those things, you think that the application has been developed already. It has not been developed at all, right? So they just use those tools. Like if you Google Figma or Balsamic or Pencil, you will see what I'm talking about. They will build those things you want them to build without coding. And that's what Mohammed said, right? You use your Salesforce App Builder to build something, right, without coding. So as a Salesforce business consultant, you should be able to use the App Builder properly, right? So that when you finish using the App Builder with your users to get those information, you can give it to the developer to build with code. So those are the people we call the full stack designer, right? They know how to do those things and put it in place in readiness for the developer to build, right? Now, we have, for the developer to build, we have people we call full stack developer. So a full stack developer is someone that can do front-end development and back-end development. If you can only do front-end, you call yourself a front you call yourself a front-end developer. If you can only do back-end, you call yourself a back-end developer. So you're going to be working with people in the team that will tell you, oh, I'm a full stack developer. So if you're on a Scrum team and someone is telling you, I have a skill of a full stack developer, it means the person can code in front end and they can code back end. I'm going to explain what front end means and what back end means. Okay. Now, what is a front end development? So a front end development is the part that focuses on the client side of the application development. So what the client can see, right? That's where something that is visual to the client, the interaction, right? So let's use an example. You know your Amazon, Amazon.com or Amazon.car. You know where you can see, when you Google Amazon.car, that site you can see. You can see the pictures, you can see the shoes you want to pick, you can see the computer you want to buy and all those things. That's what we call the client side. That application you are seeing, that Amazon site you're seeing, right, is done using these languages, right? We have what we call the HTML, hypertext markup language, right? We have the CSS and we have the JavaScript. So if someone tells you I'm a front-end developer, these are the three languages they need to know, right? So the HTML is more like the foundation, right? This is the skeleton of the site that you can see. Is the one that puts all the boxes in place that, okay, this information will be here, this information will be here. The CSS is the one that gives it light, color. I want this part to be blue. I want this part to be orange. I want this part to be yellow. I want this to be italic. I want it to be bold, right? If you can do CSS, then you can do that. Then JavaScript is what gives it that, you know, all those, when you look at the application, they are intuitive, they are interactive in nature, right? JavaScript is used to do that. When you click the drop down, it goes next. When it shows you this, you are doing something, it gives you an advert, it tells you that most bots, most popular, all those interaction is done using JavaScript. Okay, so if you say you're a front-end developer, you should be able to use these three skills. So if you're working in a team and the person tells you I'm a front-end developer, that means they can code using HTML, CSS, and JavaScript. Okay, so that's what makes them a front-end developer. Now, when you talk about back-end development, so under back-end development, these are the programming languages, right? You can use. You have PHP, ASP, C++, C#, Java, Python, Node.js. Depending on the organization, there are different programming language depending on what language the organization is using to write their backend, right? So now for the backend, we have the database as well, right? So we have the server and the database, right, for the backend. For the backend, we can have SQL, that structured query language, right? MongoDB, JSON, MySQL. They are all databases, but they are different organizations, some Microsoft, some Oracle, and the rest, right? Now, for databases, I'm sure you guys understand that databases are just like tables, right? Rows and columns, right? Now, and there's a web server. So, for example, look, remember your Amazon. If you want to buy a shoe, you know you're going to click on it that I want a red shoe, right? And you're going to say size 40, right? Now, that information is not in the front end. It's not in the client's side. That side that we can see, that's not where the information is, right? That when you click on the red shoe and size 40, it takes you through an API, application programming interface. It takes you to the web server, right, at the back to go get that information. The web server will now connect to the database, right, where the information is that, do we have a red shoe that is in size 40? If there's a red shoe in size 40, the information will go back to the application programming interface, to the front end, where you can see the information as a user, right? So every time you click on any information on the front end, it will go to the application programming interface through the web server to get the information from the database and take it back to the front end for you to see, right? So that is what happened. Now, for that to happen, someone that can do that front end and that back end, right? They are called full stack developer. They can code for the front end and they can code for the back end. So in your team, you have people who call the full stack developer, but sometimes you can have people who call front end developer, middleware, and data engineer, right? So they've broken down those skills, right? So when you start working in those Scrum teams, you will see, okay, this one has data skills. Then you know that that person is dealing with the database. If they're dealing with the web server, you will see that, okay, they are the middleware guys, the backend guys, and all that, right? But if they know HTML, CSS, and Java, then they are the front-end guys. They are the one that code what we can see, okay? So that's what makes them a full-stack developer, right? Now, so these are some of the tools for front-end, back-end, database, cloud hosting, right? So they understand all this. They call them full stack. Those guys are hot cake, right? Now, there are some other things you need to be aware of, like things like version control. So most organizations will use what we call GitHub. So you hear things like GitHub, they are using it, they use it to store versioning of their codes, right? So you'll be hearing things like that a lot, right? When you're within the Scrum team, especially when your role might not be to do coding, your role might be to get the requirement, put the designs in place and all that, right? But you're going to be working with these people and you want to have an idea of what they do, okay? So this is what we call full stack development. You have an idea of who they are. You can have conversations with them. And when you're talking to your interviewer, they understand that you work with teams, together. You've worked on a Scrum team that have developers, right? And you understand what it means to be a full stack developer, okay? Now, roles. We've talked about full stack developer. You know what it means to be a full stack developer. You know what it means to be a front end developer. Those are people that can do the front end, but they can't deal with the back end, right? They don't know how to do that. You know people that are called back end developer, those that can do back end, database, web servers, but they can't deal with in the front end, right? Then we have the UI UX designer. I already showed you that, right? And Mohammed already gave us an example on using the app builder. Now, UX UI designer, business analyst, business analyst, they can be the same person depending on the organization you are working for, right? So you can be a Salesforce consultant and you're also going to be the one to do the UX UI designer, maybe using the app builder. Okay, so depending on the organization, you might be the same person doing all this, okay? Because it's more like gathering requirements and putting it in a prototype so that the developers can code it, okay? So it depends on the organization. You might just be a Salesforce consultant, putting all the requirements and the implementation plan together, and you have people working in your Scrum team as a UX designer that will put the designs together. So depending on the organization. We have data analysts, people that deal with the data aspect. If you're a Salesforce business analyst, you can also be the one dealing with the data. So depending on the organization you're working for. We have project manager, product managers, product owner. So I asterisk product owner because in some organization, when you're working in a Scrum team, we're going to go details into Scrum, right? And you're going to see that the product owner is a role in the Scrum team, right? So your role might be Salesforce business analyst, but on the Scrum team, you are the product owner on the Scrum team. You understand what I'm saying, right? So a Scrum master, data engineer, quality assurance engineer, solution architect. Solution architect is just someone that put the architecture together, right? We want to implement Salesforce for marketing, for accounts, for finance, for HR, right? The solution architect will put the architecture of how that we operate, how everything will link together, right? And we have what we call shared resources. Agile coach. I don't know if you guys have heard of Agile coach. Agile coach are people that teach the organization how to be more agile in nature, right? They help different Scrum teams to ensure that they are following the principles and values of Agile, right? Now, in a Scrum team, you're not going to have an agile coach on each Scrum team. They come in as needed. That's why we call them shared resources. They are not resources that sit in a Scrum team, right? You call upon them when you need them. Security consultant, they are not going to be on your Scrum team. They are shared resources within the organization. When they are needed, you call them. If you want to do a design and you want it to be secure by design, right? If you need security, you call on them, security consultant. At the time you need them, then they'll help you and they leave. They don't stay on the Scrum team. That skill is not required to be on the Scrum team. So we have IT strategists, privacy consultant, database administrator. So these roles, they are all like shared resources. Anytime you need them on your project, they are being called, right? So the most role you're going to see on your Scrum team, if you're working in an agile environment that has a Scrum team, is you're going to have people with skills that can do full stack developer or front end and back end developer, UX UI designers, business analysts, product owner, and Scrum master, and the solution architects. Those are the roles, the skills. I don't want to call them roles because in Scrum, we identify only 3 roles, and I'm going to be sharing that when we get to Agile, right? So everyone is called a developer, right? Development team on a Scrum team, right? But you are going to have different skills. So these are the skills that are needed in a Scrum team, especially if you are doing software implementation. The full stack developers, the business analysts, the product owner, the Scrum masters, okay? We've talked about UX UI designer, right? And we said that this can also be a business analyst person doing it, a Salesforce consultant, a Salesforce business analyst role, okay? Any questions? Okay, great. So this is going to be the last part for this night. I want to talk about business analysts, right? So who is a business analyst? So why am I talking about business analysis, right? I'm talking about business analysis because it is a skill that is required within a Scrum team, right? So if you're a Salesforce business analyst, a product owner, you need to understand this as well, right? So what is business analysis? It's just a practice of enabling change in an enterprise. And how do you do that? You do that by defining needs and recommending solutions that deliver value to the stakeholder. So for example, if you're a Salesforce consultant and you are employed and the organization said they want to implement Salesforce, but they've not done any analysis, you as the consultant is the one that can help them to define their needs. What do they need? Why do they even want to implement Salesforce? And you now recommend a solution after you've done all your analysis to say that, okay, these are the things you need to implement, or these are the domains that you need to implement, right? So the role of business analysis is just a practice of enabling change in an enterprise by defining the needs. You articulate those needs and you give them a rationale for the change, right? Then you describe the solution that can add value to that organization. So that is what business analysis is, right? And now you can perform business analysis within the enterprise at a different range. So you can perform it at a strategic level. Remember when I was talking about IT steering committee, when I said the different lead of the different business area, commercial banking, wealth management, when they all come together. Remember I said that IT will go to each area to get information, to gather those information together, that how can we partner with you? How can we help you achieve your strategic goal? Doing those business relationship management stuff. Those people are called business analysts, but they are doing it in a strategic level, right? So they are operating on the strategic level. We also have business analysts that operate at the tactical level. So when I say tactical level, those are people that operate on a project. Do you understand? Those ones are operating on a project level. So when the strategy has been implemented, the initiative has been prioritized, it has been approved, then projects will start springing up. So you can have a business analyst that will work on a project. So we call them the tactical level. Then we also have business analysts that operate at the operational level. When they do a lot of process improvement, you know, they're already working, they are supporting applications, you know, we have operational business analysts as well. So a business analyst can operate at any point, right? And what are they trying to do? They analyze needs, they recommend solutions, they formulate strategies, they develop roadmap, they drive change, they manage requirements, they facilitate stakeholder collaboration. And if you ask me now, you say you're a Salesforce consultant, these are the things you're going to be doing, right? So a consultant is just a higher level of a business analyst. So if you say Salesforce business analyst, you might not have a domain, but when you say you're a consultant, you want to have, you're more like an expert in terms of you understand how to deal with customers to get all information out. You understand how to, so the way I say it is when you say you're a business analyst, you grow into being a consultant, right? Now, so as a business analyst and as a consultant, it's always good to understand domain, right? So for example, now you guys are already picking a domain, which is Salesforce. Salesforce is a domain, right? So you're understanding that domain, then you also now want to understand different specialties in that domain. So let's say you're a Salesforce business analyst. You can get into an organization and help them with requirement gathering of them implementing a Salesforce. But if you're a Salesforce consultant, you might be a specialist in marketing. Okay, now the organization wants to implement marketing. They are calling you that, okay, can you help us put this implementation in place, this marketing, Salesforce marketing in place, right? So it's more like you're a higher level of a business analyst because you're not just going to be gathering requirements, you're also going to be dealing with the implementation of that solution, right? So, and all these things they are still business analysts, right? And what are you doing here? You are using various techniques, right? Using all the various techniques in business analysis to achieve your goal, right? Now, one thing you want to understand is that for you to be very good with this, you need to read what we call Babok, right? Babok has put together how to go about these things, right? In 6 knowledge areas, right? So they put it together in 6 knowledge areas. And they said that, okay, for you to do this work, how do you actually organize your efforts, right? Let's say I'm a consultant, right? I want to gather requirements. I want to elicit information from the business. How do I go about it, right? What kind of method do I want to use? Do I want to use a plan-driven approach or a change-driven approach? So you understand what plan-driven approach is already, and you understand what change-driven approach is already, right? You want to determine how you're going to gather that requirement, right? And how are you going to go? How will you deal with the stakeholder? So in Babok, they've listed how you can do all those things, right? The second knowledge area talks about elicitation and collaboration. How do you want to obtain information from your stakeholder? How do you want to confirm those results, right? So let's say, for example, I want to gather requirements using surveys. We just did Slido the other time, right? So I want to gather requirements using that method. Or do I want to use a questionnaire? Or do I want to do a face-to-face interaction? Right? How do I want to manage my stakeholders so that they don't get tired of me? Do I want to meet with Tony and gather the information, but when I want to confirm from Tony, do I just want to send the information to Tony to confirm instead of going back to meet Tony again? Right? So you want to understand, and Babok has listed how you can do that elicitation and collaboration. Babok also in the third knowledge area talk about requirement lifecycle management. How do you want to manage your requirements? Remember, you're going to gather business requirements, but that business requirements, you're going to cascade it into different stakeholder requirements. Then you now cascade it into functional and non-functional requirements. Remember, I want to implement Salesforce, right? Now, when you're dealing with the stakeholder, they will tell you things they want. But those things, you need to understand if they're going to be classified under functional requirement or under non-functional requirement. So for example, right? I want to implement Salesforce so that I can manage my prospects. I want to manage my prospects, my clients, the ones that are already not clients. I want to manage them. And I want to be able to do this in real time, right? Now, managing my prospect is a functional requirement, right? You put it down. In real time is a non-functional requirement because at that time it's talking about the performance of the application. So you need to be able to understand what it means to have a functional requirement and what it means to have a non-functional requirement. And how do you break down that business requirement into stakeholder requirement, into functional and non-functional? And also transition requirement. They are currently using Zoho and they want to migrate to Salesforce. What are going to be the transition requirement? Because transition requirements are just required to transition from Zoho to Salesforce. They are not requirements that will, after the transition, those requirements are all done, right? So you want to understand that Babok has also put a knowledge area for how you can manage that requirement, how you can maintain it, how you can prioritize those requirements. Babok is a big book. You don't have to read everything at once, but read it in bits and pieces, right? Anyone you don't understand, you go to YouTube and learn more about it, right? So it helps you to, it tells you how you can manage that requirement. Now in Scrum, how do we do that requirement management? We use something we call the backlog management, right? So one of the techniques that is in Babok is called backlog management, right? So if you're going to be working in an agile environment, you need to understand how backlog is managed, right? How those prioritizations are done, right? We're going to do that when we're doing simulation. I'm going to show you a sample of it, right? How those things are done, right? We also have strategy analysis. I've already explained strategy analysis already. Requirement analysis and design. I've talked about gathering requirements and turning it into designs, right? So all that, and solution evaluation, cost benefit analysis to say, okay, this is the solution we're going for, then recommend it to the organization. And that is what a business analyst does. And a business analyst can be called a business architect. In some organizations, you are called business system analyst. In some organizations, you are called data analyst. In some organizations, you are called enterprise analyst. In some organizations, you are called management consultant. I just told you, Salesforce consultant, Salesforce business analyst. In some organizations, you are called the product manager. In some organizations, you'll be the product owner on the Scrum team. So you need to understand how all this process works, and you need to understand how you can actually get this job done, okay? So that is it, right? And another thing you want to be aware of is that as a business analyst, you need to also have domain knowledge. You need to have industry knowledge, right? So for example, domain knowledge, you guys are already into it, so you are doing good, right? Some people already work in bank, so you already understand how that industry works. Some people already work in healthcare. You already understand how that industry works. Some people work in communication industry. You already understand that industry work. It's going to give you a leverage. It's going to give you an advantage, right? Because all this business knowledge, industry knowledge, domain knowledge, solution knowledge is very important. Some people are doing Salesforce marketing. Some are doing sales. Now you are breaking it down into different solutions, right? So business analyst is the toughest. Some people think business analyst is easy, but I feel it's the toughest because you need to have different understanding, a variety of understanding for you to be, one of the best in that role, right? Because the more knowledge you have, it helps you to ask the right questions to your stakeholders, okay? And the last part is the skills, right? You need to have the skill, verbal skills, non-verbal skills, writing skills. How do you facilitate conflict resolution? How do you work as a team? And the tools, your communication tools. I'm sure you guys are good with emails. I'm going to show you how to use Mural. You need to be able to use your Mural. You need to be able to use your whiteboard, your Lucid chart, your VCO. These are some of the tools that should come in handy, right? How to use your Outlook, how to organize meetings, how to set up recurring meetings. All those things should be part and parcel of you, okay? And with that, we're going to end the class. So these are the skills you're going to have on your project, okay? And if you're using Agile, which I'm going to show you how we talk about cross-functional skills, right? So these are the things, the roles, right, you have on your, most of these roles are project-based roles. So you have those skills on your project. So if you're going into that kind of project base, these are some of the things you need to have handy with you. Okay? Any question? Mohammed.
Okay, thank you, Florence, for the presentation. It was really articulate and well thought. So my question is, okay, I know like in Salesforce we have the Salesforce, the business analyst, something that to show and where you can apply for job roles as an analyst. Mm-hmm. But is there anything that relates to this in Salesforce, like the Scrum and everything we've been talking about? I wanted to just know
that relates.
If we have something like that in Salesforce, maybe for exam, so that I could have my mind prepared, trying to get certifications for it.
Oh, not just learning. For Scrum?
Yeah, Salesforce Scrum. Or yes, I'm new to. I've been an architect before, so I'm new to this space of
space. Okay, so Scrum.
Salesforce and everything.
Okay, so Scrum is more like a process, right? It's a process of implementing a project, right? So it's a process, and there are exams that you can do, right? I will tell you about the exams, right? As we get along, I will show you the different exams. The common one is PSM, right? So you can do that, right? So I will talk about those exams as we get along, right? Now, if you're doing Salesforce, right, you want to implement something. When you get to that organization, there's a process of that, the methodology you're going to use to implement that Salesforce you've been learning, right? So in some organization, they use this agile methodology, which is Scrum or Kanban, right? But Scrum is the most popular one, and that's why we're going to deep dive into Scrum, okay? So it's just a methodology of what you want to implement. So I'm saying that even as you're using this methodology, it's not just about knowing the methodology. Even if you're going to be a consultant, a Salesforce business analyst, you need to understand some of these things. How do you do this work, right? It's not just knowing the technicalities, right? So I'm saying that you can go through BABOK. So BABOK is what we call business analysis body of knowledge. So people have come together, right, that understand. You don't have to do the exam. Just read the book. You don't have to do the exam. But if you want to do the exam, it's fine as well, which is CBAP. But you don't have to do the exam. But what I'm just saying is that it gives you those understanding. Because when you now get to your place of work, it helps because you have an idea of how to go about it. You have the idea, you have understanding of how to run your sessions, how to facilitate a workshop, how to do surveys, because those steps has been listed for you in BABOK. Okay? So that's what I was trying to explain. Okay?
Thank you very much.
Good. Any other question? Okay, we have 5 minutes. I'm going to spend my 5 minutes graciously. So we're going to do Kahoots. Don't worry, just 4 questions. So we'll be done within 5 minutes. If you guys can log in on time. Okay? I'm going to be sharing my screen. It's just 4 questions and it's on full stack development. I just want to see if you guys understand it. Sometimes the question just reinforces it, right? So even if you don't get it, it's fine. It just, is this one, just reinforces it again. Okay, I can see people coming in fast. Good. So that we can, finish at 10 o'clock on the dot.
So who is winning, Florence?
Right now?
Yes.
It was Didi.
Didi is a nameless person in Black Fox. So who is Didi?
I don't know who Didi is though.
Okay.
The other side.
Didi is anonymous. So
Didi is anonymous, right?
So we have to give it to Lillian and the other names that are very popular, like Mohammed, Lillian, and Co.
Okay.
Maybe Kathy and Rookie, all of them. I don't know who Didi is.
Hopefully Didi will talk because we have Didi here again. He's back.
Oh, Didi is back with even in pictures.
Uh-huh.
Awesome.
Yeah, and I think we had Bad for second place or something.
Oh.
I can always check. Okay, let's see. I think we have enough people. We'll start now. It's just 4 questions.